Welcome one, welcome all to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape. You can listen to this show on any of SB Nation's NFC East blog podcast networks. You can, of course, watch on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel, the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. Check out our podcast network. Subscribe, leave a rating, write a review. You don't have to subscribe to the team feed that you don't support, but go leave a rating, go write a review. Those things really help us out. My name is RJ Ochoa from Blog and the Boys. His name is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. BLG. Happy April to you.
Happy Friday, RJ. How's it going, my man?
It's not a Friday. Don't do that. Stop that. It's Tuesday.
That's my intro.
April 4th.
What else do you want?
It's Tuesday. It's April 4th. I have a take that I've been kind of meaning to get off my chest. It's a little bit random, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Are you ready?
Random.
I think artificial, call it Zoom backgrounds, whatever platform you're using, are weird. Not a fan. I don't like the
video conferencing.
I don't like the grainy background, the grainy tracing over like a person's shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Like the outline that's a result of the superimposing that's happening. And I'm kind of I'm understanding if you're in a place or a setting or whatever, and and you want to gloss it up a little bit, that's fine. But if you're I want to be in outer space today or something like
that. Right. Yeah, I hate when that happens. It's a really bad
podcast network, the podcast audience missing out. That's why you got to check out the YouTube side of things, because Brandon,
I try to do things, RJ, that incorporate.
I'm talking to a brick wall. I'm talking to a brick wall. That's what's happening.
Yeah, this is a familiar feeling, isn't it? But look how bad it is. To your point, look behind my headphones here. Look how bad it looks there.
If you take the time to get a green screen set up and things like that, by all means, go for it. Live your life. Great song. But I mean, if you're just throwing it up and now you're that actually looks kind of real, but just because of the background, it looks more natural. A lot of people. One of our guys at BTB does this one for our roundtables. So and we've had the brick wall background too. So you're not doing anything unique. What is that? Is that just
this is just the blur effect?
See, I'm kind of okay with that, because at least you're not trying to lie to us. You know what I mean? With a background or whatever. But I'm just, it's a weird disconnect for me.
I think the blur is good if you have an important meeting or something, and you have to be in a certain spot that just isn't ideal. Maybe you're on vacation or traveling or whatever, and you kind of just don't want to a messy room behind you, and you kind of just don't have the time to maybe set that up. So yeah, you kind of just put the blur on to hide some of that. But that's more of a last resort thing.
So this episode, everyone has seen the title by now, is the non-NFC East episode of the NFC East Mixtape. This was your idea, which I agreed to. The other idea that you had, which I didn't agree to, was to mislead the audience for the entire thing and to be we have a great show planned for you, and just talk what would appear to be off topic the entire time. But I didn't want to do that.
It's not I didn't want
to have a false background like you have obviously signed up for with all the different things that you got going on.
It's called a bit, RJ. It's not
but it would have been confusing. I'm all about efficiency and about making streamlining things. I don't want any confusion. We've all got places to be. The people who give us their time, I didn't want them to be confused and be what's going on? I didn't get my NFC East news this week. I didn't find out that Darius Slay was interested in signing with the Baltimore Ravens. So Darius Slay wanted to play with Lamar Jackson, Brandon's favorite quarterback. So who would have thought? People would have missed out on that. They would have been confused.
But he didn't. Yeah, honestly, though, there isn't a whole lot of actual juicy stuff going on in the division, which really
in the league
sets up. Yeah, we're in a little bit of a lull here between the end of free agency, basically, in terms of the big exciting news, and then we are a little less than 4 weeks out from the 2023 NFL draft. So the juice isn't quite there yet. We will certainly be getting into more draft talk in that as the weeks approach here. But I thought it'd be a nice time to kind of stop down in the dead zone and just talk about anything and everything. What's on your mind?
it is kind of a chill time, and it does. I don't, the NFL doesn't necessarily like chill time. The NFL's like, oh, NBA, you have a moment, we're gonna take that back right now. So it feels like the NFL's like baseball. You want to have your opening day? That's fine. By the way, Brandon, imagine rooting for a baseball team that has yet to record a win this season. I cannot imagine what that must be like. So
it's very on brand for the most losingest team in baseball and sports history. So can't say I'm shocked in that sense.
Anyway, so yeah, baseball opening day is opening week, whatever you want to call it. It's the week of the Masters, right? Like the NFL is kind of letting everybody else breathe a little bit before they like fully come and totally strike. The owners' meetings, I feel like, didn't even really use the word juice. Like last week was not like a ton of stuff. Not
It
even
was
really
Lamar
anything.
and nothing else.
It was Lamar, and then I feel like the biggest things going on in the league have been associated with I don't even call them like potential rule changes. Did we talk about? I read Kalen Keeler's article in The Athletic. I don't know if we talked about this, about the Eagles wanting to add fractional seconds to the game clock. I love that idea. That's the world that I want to live in. So shout out to whoever it was, whether it's Howie or Nick, my guy. I love that idea. I don't think it will ever come to pass. The NFL is so simplistic. Like they like things to be so plain sometimes that it's actually kind of mind-boggling. I was tweeting with Bob Sturm from The Athletic, actually won the ticket, and talking about, do you ever use the MLB app for anything?
No.
Dude,
other than like tickets, maybe when I go to the game, I feel like you have to or something like that.
This is a different subject, but it kind of relates. Like, I guess, we kind of talked a few weeks ago about like the pitch clock and like all these like things that baseball's trying, but like the MLB app, the MLB website, MLB TV compared to like the NFL app, NFL website, and nothing against the people who create the content, obviously, for the NFL's website. But the NFL, obviously NFL Game Pass, like all those like systems and things are so difficult to use. Everything under the MLB's umbrella is incredible. Like the MLB app, the MLB website is a rabbit hole. Like you can totally, completely get lost, like researching information and finding little things, and it's all connected. It's wonderful. So that kind of goes back to the NFL being like, you want fractional seconds? Whoa, no way. We deal in whole numbers around here, people.
Yeah, I don't think that got approved, if I'm not mistaken. And I heard some of the reason, or had read that some of the reason why there might be opposition to that. To your point about by the way, I feel like I need to stop saying that, and I need every podcaster to stop saying. To your point, has become this huge podcast phrase, which makes sense, but also I just
It's
feel
a
like
good
I catch
segue.
myself saying it. It's not a bad phrase. It's just the alarming use of the phrase is a little disturbing because I don't think people talk like that in real life. It's something that people say on podcasts a lot more than real life. Anyway. Tangent aside, the clock issue in terms of the physical clocks in stadiums, there was like worry about owners being too cheap and not like willing to replace
it's amazing.
the double digit or whatever, whatever the clocks or how many ever digits that there are.
The clocks currently can't. Not every clock in stadiums can handle the decimals, is what you're saying.
Right.
That's the problem. Like how is this an issue in 2023? It's really amazing, but
it is pretty arbitrary
that
there's just different stadiums and different clock operators, and sometimes you can tell when you're watching a broadcast when one is slow and one is not. Like sometimes there'll be like end of a game or end of a half, whatever, and there's like, let's say 7, 8, I don't know, seconds left, and it's like a field goal, and they kick the field goal, and the field goal goes through, but like the clock is still ticking as like the ball hits the net and goes to the ground because they're obviously just want to get to the half. They're not going to
some
save
like let it
ride.
Right. And then we have to go do the kickoff and
yeah,
well, like,
exactly.
Like within this subject, something I don't understand if like why we can't do it is like, how sometimes when I don't know if it's like a situation like that, like a team's like driving to try to get a field goal off and they run a play with like 7 seconds left and they spike the ball and it looked like they spiked it with 1 second left on the game clock, but then they go and the broadcast will superimpose a play clock that has decimals and has obviously like fractional seconds. So like if that information is available and technically exists the entire time in the background, why can't we see it? You know what I mean? Like that is an important thing. So I don't understand, like that could change history. That could change the future. So I don't understand why we aren't doing that. What are your thoughts? We didn't really talk about this last week because I'm fighting off a sneeze. I think I know your thoughts. I mean, I think we're both against this. The Thursday night football flex scheduling. That is like, it does seem like they're going to probably pass this through when they reconvene in May, right? That's like what the tea leaves sort of suggest. That seems, I mean, I don't even say it seems like that is an obviously terrible idea with regards to player safety and, common sense and fans and travel and things like who is in favor of this outside of Amazon?
In the NFL making money. I don't know.
Well, yeah, like that's a like a tangential part of it, right?
I don't know. I don't really have. I mean, I don't think it makes sense. I think everyone kind of agrees for the most part that it doesn't make sense to. It's just too short notice. Um, a lot of people like build their like entire plans around going to these games in terms of like flying in, getting the hotel, going to this event. Like I think that's such a short amount of time to kind of. It's not like I don't know. I don't know if it's comparable, but it's a big commitment. Going to an NFL game, unlike other sports, is this like really big. It's like a like almost like
It's a
religious
trip.
event, or yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. It's not just like casual like baseball, for example. There's 162 games. Oh, we'll go to a baseball game. Like whatever. Like, and if you go somewhere and one gets rained out, you can go to another one. It's just like whatever. There's so many. There's only 16 or 17 now of these in the regular season each year, and I don't know. I mean, none of this matters because again, they don't think in the way of logic and what should happen and fan experience. Which I mean, hey, we talked about. I think shout out to John Mara for actually putting out a good point on
Right.
that.
He was
But
the only one who was like the voice of the fans. Like, you know what I mean? Like saying like this is really, and he actually it was a little bit of like business touch in his statement because he was like, this is really unfair to our season ticket holders.
mhm,
Which is true. But I mean, so my dad and I used to go to a Cowboys road game every year. We started going in 2014. We stopped in 2020, obviously, and then ever
right,
since then, my wife and I had a baby, and like just life got a little bit
sure,
more hectic. But so that first game we went to in 2014 was a Thursday night game, and so we like planned the whole weekend around it. We went to Chicago, and we were like, okay, we're gonna go to the game on Thursday night, which we did, and then
mhm,
we stayed there through the weekend and enjoyed it, whatever. The next year we went to Lambeau, and that game was on a Sunday, but like we bought flights and hotel and Lambeau. I mean, like every city and every NFL venue, whatever, has its own little things. But like, I remember we parked. You've never been to Lambeau, right?
no,
Right. So we parked on like, I mean, but you're obviously familiar with like the culture of Green Bay. We
I've
parked
looked it
on
up on
these.
like Google Maps before because I thought that was really like just hearing how people talked about it and seeing it like
It's
even on there was really like interesting and not what I
it's
had
super
expected.
unique, dude. So we parked on somebody's like front lawn. You know what I mean? Like that's just
Yep.
the culture and the vibe, right?
Yeah, 'cause
And
there's
so
just
like
houses right there,
right.
right
And
across
so,
from the stadium.
and that's just the way it goes. And so like I'm just trying to like when this discussion came up last week, I was thinking like, man, that trip would have like had a huge wrench in it if it had all of a sudden gone from Sunday afternoon, it was a 3 o'clock kick to Thursday night. You know what I mean? Like the next year in 2016, we went to Pittsburgh. That was the Zeke walk-off game. Like again, like lots that went into that, all sorts of things, that we planned and put together. And we started, traveling with other people and other events that we added to kind of, add to the experience and things like that as the years went on. And that would really, really, really suck. I mean, like, so like sometimes you can change your flight, right? Like, and it's not, a cost, but what if you can't? What if the flight's full? Then you can't make it. What if you can't get off of work? You know what I mean? Then you can't go to the game or whatever. Like that is such an L thing to do to fans.
I think travel is already, at least for me, incredibly stressful. Even when things are like going to, like everything's going as according to plan, like it's already a stressful experience, and then add in any kind of wrenches in there. What game would you go to and let's say you and your dad were going to like continue this tradition this year, which I don't know if you will or not, but I'm saying like let's pretend you would. What Cowboys road game would you go to in 2023? And do you know the road teams, or do you need me to pull them up because I have them here for you?
I have them because
And
we're
the real
really
answer
good
is
at
the
plugging
Eagles
boys.
because of the live mixtape podcast, but we're not going to talk. That doesn't count. We're talking about non-NFC East edition as fitting with the
So
podcast.
I think we should both play this game. Like, what is the best road game? Because maybe there are other people who are planning this for
Sure.
themselves in their own sense. So obviously, the Cowboys and Eagles both travel to their divisional rivals. The
Mhm.
Cowboys are traveling to face the Panthers this season. And no, that's not the whole end. So hold up. To start, the NFC East plays the NFC West and the AFC East in
Mhm.
2023. So Cowboys are visiting the Panthers, where the Eagles are visiting the Bucks. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Cowboys are visiting the Cardinals, where no, that's NFC West. Cowboys are visiting, who's the other NFC team? Oh, that's the only one that they're visiting because they're hosting the other.
Yeah, the floating.
So
Yeah.
right. Cowboys AFC road games are against the Chargers in Kellen Moore, in
There you
Buffalo, and in Miami. What AFC East teams are? Oh, so that means the Chiefs are visiting Arrowhead. Probably not the trip if you're an Eagles fan.
You mean the Eagles are visiting Arrowhead?
I'm sorry, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's probably not the one you want to go to if you're an Eagles fan, for obvious reasons. But what
that
AFC
one in theory
East
could be in Germany, so could the Patriots one for the Eagles. But it sounded like coming out of the owners' meetings that there was not like full on like hard sourced reporting, but the sentiment seemed to be the Eagles will not be playing in Germany.
So Eagles are visiting the Patriots in the division. And who are the Eagles' road games outside of the NFC East? That's my question.
Eagles on the road outside of the NFCs. They will be playing in 2023. The Rams, the Patriots, the Jets, Jets, Jets. No, that's not how you spell Jets. Jets, Seahawks, Chiefs, and Bucks. Those are all their road games.
Who are the AFC East ones? The Patriots and the Jets that they're
Patriots
visiting,
and the Jets, which you know,
and then the NFC West teams that they're visiting are the Rams and the Seahawks, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the Cowboys are interestingly, the Cowboys are the exact opposite. So the Cowboys host the Rams and the Seahawks, and the Cowboys host the Patriots and the Jets. So of the divisions that the NFC East play, the Cowboys and Eagles are a complete opposite in terms of home and away. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my point is, like, they won't visit the same teams at all this coming season, outside of the divisional teams. Away games to the Cowboys. Let's do this one first, then we'll do Eagles first. This was supposed to be a non-NFC East episode. For me, so I said we started in 2014. We went to Chicago. In 2015, we went to Green Bay. 16, we went to Pittsburgh. 17, we went to Oakland because we knew they were leaving, and so kind of wanted to get it done and see it. You know what I'm saying? That was the index card game, which was super cool. In 18, we went to Atlanta. In 18, we went to Atlanta and Indianapolis. And then in 19, we went to New England. And then obviously 2020. We were going to go to Baltimore in 2020. Obviously when we had planned it ahead of time. But so I like the AFC venues just because it's much more rare that the Cowboys visit them. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're going to go to Washington and FedEx Field or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they do that every year. It's not a big, I mean, that's a bad example. But the one that jumps out to me is Buffalo. Some of that is like time contingent or scheduling contingent. I wouldn't want to go to Buffalo in December, which is when the Cowboys visited there in 2015. But if Buffalo is in, late October, early November, man, that would be incredible. I have really zero interest in going to LA to see the Chargers. Like it just doesn't appeal to me. Miami would be kind of cool. I went and covered the Super Bowl there for SB Nation a few years back. So I didn't go to the stadium, but kind of already been there, seen, that kind of done. My wife and I's honeymoon was in Florida too, so whatever. San Francisco's kind of a corporate stadium now, so like, Arizona, maybe. But Buffalo's the clubhouse leader for me. Like it'd be tough to beat Buffalo for me. And again, like they're probably going to be in a new stadium in 8 years. You know what I'm saying? So, or whatever it is, and it would have to line up for the Cowboys and Bills to finish in the same place in the division when the Cowboys do visit the AFC East again on the rotation. So yeah, I would love to go see their current stadium before it's maybe in a dome and they can close the roof or whatever. Like that's the thing. Like I kind of would like to go when it's super cold and experience it. Like it is part of the like ritual of being a football fan in my book.
Unless I think the Bills pick is the right one. Again, September too, maybe a late September game. For the Eagles away games, I'm trying to think. Am I mistaken? I don't think the Eagles have played in SoFi Stadium. So if someone wanted to see that for the first time,
that's true.
They could do that.
It opened in 2020, so there's been 3 chances.
I don't think they played there.
And the NFC, where did the Eagles and Chargers play last year? Was that in Philly?
Yeah, that was in Philly, and prior to that, it was in their like that soccer stadium they were in for a little bit. And then I don't think they played they played the Rams on the road in 2017 and 2018, but that was both, I think, at the Coliseum. So
Yeah, that was the
yeah,
Carson Wentz game, right? In 17.
in 17, and then Foles beating them with the first game that Wentz missed after he got like hurt again. This is back in 2018.
I mean, like,
So
I do think SoFi is like kind of entering like a stadium you have to visit territory.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it is this like elaborate thing, but it's not like deep and rich and rooted in NFL culture. Like that's where I want to go.
Yeah, and I don't know. I haven't been to LA, but I've heard a lot of people who have been to LA say that like you don't necessarily have to go to LA. You're not like missing a ton, a lot of traffic. I don't know, but I think that's one that stands out. And the other one, I guess, the Seahawks. I
That's
think Seattle's a cool city, and I've been there. And yeah, I can't say the Chiefs because I don't think you want to do that. And, I mean, if you do, hey, good for you, but I don't want to do that. And then the Bucks, I mean, that doesn't feel really special at all to me, especially like I don't think there's a lot of juice for that team right now. So I mean, who are they going to be playing? Baker Mayfield? Like, I don't know. So yeah, I think it has to be either LA or Seattle, and I think I'm going to say Seattle.
Seattle's the place. Like awesome trip, especially like if it's in that time of year that we talked about, like even late October. You know, like that's a great kind of vibe. And the cool part, like great food. You know what I mean? Great part of the country. Go visit Starbucks, whatever you want to do. And here's the
Only
thing,
in
like,
Seattle you can
but
visit Starbucks.
this is what like is also a part of the like Thursday Night Football flex thing or whatever. And I know it wouldn't apply to the time of year that we're talking about because it's only supposed to be from what like week 15 on, but still like you know in the event of that, like what if you were like, okay, we're gonna go see the Eagles play in Seattle and the Mariners are playing on Thursday. Like, we're gonna get there Thursday because the Mariners have a game against the Angels on Thursday night, and we want to see Shohei pitch. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like, and then like poof, the game is now on Thursday. Like your entire like overall weekend that you planned is now squashed, and that sucks. Like I would really hate that for any fan of any team that had their plans changed like that. So we agree that Seattle is the ideal road trip destination for Philadelphia, and that Buffalo is the ideal road trip destination for Dallas.
Yeah, and then to round out the NFC East and our non-NFC East episode, I think the Giants have some good road trips here. They got Miami, San Fran, Buffalo.
Those are Dallas's.
Vegas.
Vegas is the play.
The Saints, and the Saints too.
New Orleans would be cool too.
Yeah, it's Vegas, but like that's a pretty good. If you're naming their top 5 road destinations, like it's a pretty strong top 5. So there you go for Giants fans, and then for the Commanders, looking at them, it's similar to the Eagles, except they go to the Falcons and they play the Broncos. So I'm going to say Denver for the Commanders.
I've never been to a game like in Denver Stadium, but I've toured it and been to Denver just on vacation. Super awesome, like super great, super awesome vibe. Like absolutely highly recommend. Like I said, I toured the stadium, and something that always stuck out to me about the tour was they took you like through the locker rooms and stuff. The visiting locker room, the floor is carpeted, and it has like what I would describe as like it looks like sprinkles from like a cupcake on it, like all over the floor. And it is apparently specifically designed to like create nausea. Like it's like an optical effect that like discombobulates or like set like almost like induces vertigo like in the human mind. And then they like again some of this stuff is like cheeky or whatever. It's like silly sports stuff. When you walk out of the visiting locker room, there's like a big sign like pinned on the wall that says like you are 5,000 whatever feet above altitude, and the tour guide.
Gosh.
Well, the
what
tour
am I
guide
gonna do?
The tour guide is obviously like gassing up like the Broncos, and so they're like, this is a reminder of how different it is to play here at
how unfair and an advantage it is that Denver gets to play in a different altitude, and other people have to adjust to that.
Yeah, that was a good it was kind of NFC East related. Here's a question. I don't know if these games will happen, but if you could go see a non-NFC East game this year, what would you want it to be like between which two teams? You can pick a division rivalry so we know it will happen, or you can pick something and then we can check if that's actually happening.
I think I've only been to one for NFL, at least one non
Eagles game.
Yeah, Eagles matchup, and that was the Jets-Texans. It was a really good game that I left early for. My dad had gotten tickets through his work. Like the Jets were trying to MetLife was newer at this time. It's like 2012, and they're trying to get people to buy Jets season tickets. So they're kind of giving away some games to kind of entice people. And that was a fun experience.
So, okay, my question is design it. Pick the two teams. Tell us where you would want to see the game. what time of year and what time slot you would want the game to be in.
Good question. I've been to like an NFL game as a fan, and probably since then, like man, over 10 years. I think I would want it to be. Don't want it to be too cold. I just don't, honestly. But I also don't want it to be hot. It can't be like an early September game. Some of these
You want it
games
to be like a hoodie level game?
warm.
Like that's the
Yeah,
like
we're talking about like early October-ish, probably somewhere around there. Like cool, but not cold.
mid 50s to mid 60s type situation.
Yeah, you're not freezing, but a little bit chilly. You're not
Okay.
sweating at all. Probably. Do you have an answer for this?
Well, the last game, I think the only non-Cowboys game I've ever been to was Super Bowl 51, the 28-3 game, and obviously that was epic.
Yeah, we're talking about like regular season. I feel
right. I mean, so like I'm personally crafting it around like teams I haven't seen. So like I do think it'd be sick to go to Arrowhead and see like, well, like it would like. I want to see the crowd. You know what I mean? Like, you
want to see Patrick Mahomes refuse to lose in person.
Oh man. I'm kind of thinking about Cincinnati. I would love to see it, and I would want to see like a contentious game, like Bengals Ravens almost, or like I would kind of want the Steelers to get back and see the Steelers visit them. And I would want it to be a like Sunday night game. You know what I mean? Like actually Monday night game, because I want to spend Sunday in Cincinnati watching all the games in some like sort of sports bar situation. And so Monday Night Football, Steelers in Cincinnati, you get the whole weekend to kind of, drive up to the game. That'd be a lot of fun. If I've already been there, but if I hadn't, I would say Pittsburgh. I don't know like where the like Keystone rivalry, whatever stuff falls, but like that is one of the most fun trips I've ever had. Like super awesome area, super awesome city. I absolutely loved everything about my trip to Pittsburgh.
I'm trying to account here for like, actually if the team is good or interesting and like would that be fun to watch? But what was you just? Oh, the Bengals game against the Bills last year, which obviously got canceled because of Damar Hamlin. But like, man, the crowd was juiced for that. Like that I thought that was gonna be
that vibe is what I'm talking about.
That was gonna be such an awesome game, and I swear I'm not doing this as like a hindsight thing too. Like, oh, it's so much cooler. Like it was gonna be great, and then this thing happened. No, like I remember in the moment, I was shocked. I was like, wow, I didn't know like the Bengals fans get so like fired up like this. I mean, that was crazy. That like was an awesome atmosphere. So I think that's an interesting pick.
I kind of woke up to the Bengals fan base a little bit when they had the Vontaze Burfict playoff game. You know what I'm talking about against the Steelers when he like that. It was, I mean, like that didn't go the Bengals' way, but it was very clear in that moment. Like, whoa, what a big shock! Like playoff atmosphere was a cool thing, but it still is very clear that like Cincinnati rocks. You know what I mean? Like in its own particular way, Cincinnati rocks. So I would like to see that. I think even like Chicago would be like if the Bears were like thriving, it would be a cool vibe. So that's a low key.
Bears are gonna have that new stadium.
That's true too. So yeah, that's my answer. Wow, I'm really kind of killing it with the questions here. I don't know if you have, but when you want to.
I don't think there's anywhere I'm like dying to go. I've seen into like the Seahawks stadium because you can see that I think from like the Space Needle or different areas of Seattle. But probably it'd be actually cool to see a game there. But like
I would say like Lambeau, like it was really cool.
Yeah, that's just the low hanging fruit. Like that's obvious. But again, I'm trying to account for team, and I don't know if I want to watch the Packers like with Jordan Love. I don't know if like that's like super interesting to me. And who do I want to see him play? Who would I want to see the Seahawks play? I don't know. Is there another like I don't really care about the 49ers.
Yeah, I wouldn't care about like a division game in the same way. Like maybe like the Lions in Seattle.
That could be I think they had a good I think that could be an interesting one. I was also thinking if I'm going AFC maybe Vegas, because obviously that would be I've never been to Vegas. That could be interesting. I don't really think Vegas is my vibe, but give it a chance. And I don't know, watch there I would like to see maybe a divisional game like Chargers Raiders in Vegas. I don't know, that could be interesting.
I've been to Vegas once. I went right after I turned 21 with some friends, and it was the like, oh, we're 21, we can do all this stuff, like sort of trip. But yeah, it'd be cool to go see a game. I would love to like pick one. I brought up the like the Mariners thing. Like I would love to set one up where I could go to like an MLB game or an NBA game or an NHL game. When I went to New England, actually, the Saturday night before, we went and saw a Bruins game, and that was super cool. Like I had never been to a hockey game at that point in time, and so that was really fun. So that like I think all those things matter to me. Okay, next question. If we don't have any actually, but like next question to make up for us to figure out as we move along. Actually, no. Before we get to the next question, let's take a very quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back. While we were gone, Brandon came up with 10 questions. Let's hear one of them.
It's a lot of questions, and we don't have that much time left, but we can get through them all. I wanted to know, what are you watching?
Like right now, or like this moment in time, or like generally, like
it's open-ended.
So behind you, in my office, I have I'm a Fubo customer, not an ad, but I've told you before they have the multi-view stuff. So I have the Masters coverage from Golf Channel as the big screen like portion of it. I've got I think it's the re-air.
Why should someone watch golf? What does this sell?
Do you want me to answer that question too?
Yeah.
I mean,
your pitch, your elevator pitch.
My like favorite part about watching golf is I play a lot of golf, so it's really cool to be like, holy crap, how do they do that? You know what I'm saying? Like it like I don't feel that same sensation with football. You know what I mean? Because I don't like go play football every day. So it is like it is just like an awe for me, like at how people of different body types are able to do the same sort of like powerful and delicate and intricate things all at once. And so if you are trying to get into golf, this is the week to do it. Like this is the Super Bowl of golf. Like this is the Masters. And so, yeah, this is a good week for golf. So so I got the Masters going. I've got the re-air of Good Morning Football going on a smaller portion of the screen. And I've got MLB Network on a smaller portion of the screen. They just talked about the Phillies not having a win yet this season. So
I never played tennis, but I like, if I was thinking about like what's like a kind of one of our favorite sports outside of, let's say, the major 4 or 5, if you're including soccer in there, professional sport leagues. And yeah, I think it's tennis for me. I specifically, I'm a big Rafa Nadal fan.
Right.
But I really do like just like watching tennis. I don't do it always as much as I might like want to, or I'm not like I'm not saying like, oh, I'm like a huge tennis and I didn't play it. But I like it. There's something about it that I think is really compelling and fun. Rugby also, again, not something I watch much at all, but like watching rugby in person, I think actually is really cool. Even I don't even really care what level it is. I'm not just talking about professional. My cousin was playing for a little bit for just like, some township league or whatever. And I thought it was really fun and awesome and just so different. And like it's like really weird to think about like the different strategies, especially because of how there are similarities to football, but it's distinctly different. Just the comparison. So I don't know. I feel like I'd also love to play like a rugby video game. Maybe I feel like that could be fun. And I feel like that's like just the best way to learn a sport in general. It's just like play the video game. Not perfect for everything, but I feel like, if you're looking to get into something, I feel like that's like a good place to start. It's definitely why I feel like I started to understand things about football when I was younger. Like, because you see like names and teams and I don't know, plays.
This take has like been made a million times, but like I do think there's like a kernel of truth at least to it. Like, pick whatever young coach you want, like Mike McDaniel, like Kevin O'Connell. For whatever reason, Kevin O'Connell doesn't get lumped into the young coach category, but like Kevin Stefanski, I think Kevin Stefanski said this on Pardon My Take, maybe. I thought I saw a clip of him. It's somebody talked about like how playing Madden truly was helpful. Like I remember the first time like I did this on Madden, I was, playing and I was down by 10 at that moment in time, and I was driving and there was like, I don't know, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, and I kicked the field goal first, and my cousin was like watching me. He was like, why did you kick the field goal first? And I was like, well, I need 10 points. Like like I have to get both, you know what I mean? Like, and so like the enemy here is time, you know what I mean? It isn't like whatever. And so like, and I was able to like get a stop on defense and then go score the touchdown, then won in overtime. But like that was the first time I ever like, I'm not saying I developed that strategy, but like that was the first time that strategy ever became like apparent to me. And like I think there are people who like, I don't want to say like older people and say whatever, but like that don't do things like this, that like I think a good example of a debate that like would be helpful to understand by playing Madden is when a team is down by when they score a touchdown. So when they're down by 15 points and they score a touchdown, so they're now down 9 and they don't go for 2. And people are like, nope, you don't go for 2 or whatever. Like, well, it's like, no, you have to go for 2 because what is the example I'm thinking of when they're down by 15 points? Sorry. And they score a touchdown. So they score after the 6 points, they're down by 8, right? What is it? What is the example?
It's even by 14, I think, though, too. You still would want to do
well,
it.
14 is a little bit more like aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Like that's more. I'm trying to think of the example. Gosh, I'm butchering it here. Give me a second to pull up the Cowboys.
I mean, the reality is you should almost just always go for 2, and if we're being honest, or at least a lot more often than teams do, because it's 2 freaking yards. Like, have you ever seen? It's the dichotomy between like football players, tough, like masculine, like like, and then you can't do something that is risky. Like it's too
right.
Like,
so
what are you talking about?
The example I'm thinking of,
we're tough. No one scares us to like a 2-yard play. Oh, you can't go for that. Something could go wrong.
So the example I'm thinking of specifically is when a team is down by 15 points. And this did happen to the Cowboys, which is why I was like confusing it in my mind. If you're down by 15 points and you score a touchdown, so you're now down by 9, right? Like that's what has happened here. But because of the 6 points you scored, the logic is to go for 2, like if it's late in the game, whatever. So the Cowboys were trailing the Falcons in the second week of 2020, 39-24. They scored a touchdown to narrow it to 39-30 with 4 minutes and 57 seconds left. And I remember this and the week after so vividly. And this was the watermelon kick game, if you recall. Mm-hmm. And it was like, nope, you can't go for 2. Because if you kick the extra point, now you're down by 8. And so the logic is like, got to keep it a 1-possession game. It's like, okay, but what if you don't get the 2-point conversion in the future? You know what I'm saying? Like what you have, the enemy isn't the 2-point conversion. The enemy is information. Like you have to understand as soon as possible what the circumstances are, so you know how aggressive that you have to be. And the Cowboys didn't get that 2-point conversion, so they were down by 9, and they knew, we still need to score twice, right? Like if they had waited, they wouldn't have known then. They might not have had enough time to wind up winning like they did. But my point is, like, I think those, call them strategies, become more apparent if you do play video games. You know what I'm saying? Because you experience those things firsthand, as opposed to living in the like, nope, you gotta keep it a 1-score game. But because like an 8-point deficit isn't necessarily a 1-score game. You know what I'm saying? Like you think it is in your mind because you've been trained and conditioned to think that, but like the 2-point conversion, even the extra point, is not a guarantee. So you can't, like, people only assume it's a guarantee when they want to. You know what I'm saying? And so whatever. But just to answer your original question on what I'm watching, you brought up tennis. What's the tennis show that they did? The covering it. You know what I'm talking about? The Drive to Survive people. They did a tennis version, and then they did Full Swing for golf. I finally started Drive to Survive. So shout out to you, Michael Kist, who I've been annoying with questions about it. And I'm somebody who really likes epic things. And so like I used to be obsessed with the word epic. And so I like,
this is the least surprising thing I've ever heard.
I like worldwide phenomenons. You know what I'm saying? So like F1 is cool in that it is this like worldwide phenomenon. I'm not like the most ardent
You're
F1
a follower.
fan.
Yeah, we get it.
But it is super cool to see the like global impact that it has, and tennis for that matter too, and golf. So I'm watching F1 and White Lotus simultaneously.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard really good things about White Lotus. Didn't want to talk too much about like shows in terms of spoilers. I'm still working my way through Seinfeld. Getting closer to the end. Really good show. Obviously, if you've never heard of it. Also, Mandalorian, I know, and the Bad Batch, which like I like, but at the same time, I think I've talked about this before. Maybe and I think I've stolen it from Rob Cesternino. Was it him who said it? Like the Wikipedia entry-fication of Star Wars, and like we need to like fill in every single gap. I think it's just not what. Like, it's cool in some ways because there are some things that you definitely like wonder about that go unanswered, or I think in general, like looking at the Clone Wars or Rebels, I think that actually did fill in some of the gaps nicely. Although some of those series are like too long, but some of the stuff filled in the gaps nicely between the prequels, which I liked more than I think people generally did.
Right.
I don't think they are objectively like masterpieces, but like I enjoyed them, especially because like my parents had their own Star Wars era, like, and that was the original one. They grew up with that. For me, I remember having like the box, the kiss. What are those called again?
The VHSs.
Yeah, VHSs.
By the way, sorry, really quickly, I got a lot of comments on the Rewinder.
Oh yeah, I've been to that.
I got a lot, and a lot of people said that it existed because it was a faster rewinder than VCRs. Which, fine, like I accept that that's the truth, but like people were like, it took a VCR like 8 minutes to rewind. I have no memory of that ever like being the case in
No,
my
it took a
household.
long time. Definitely
Okay,
did.
well then here's my question, Brandon. Like, okay, so you're a VCR manufacturer in 1994, whatever. Why not work together with the rewinder manufacturers and get their technology of rewinding inside your VCR?
Well, I think there were some comments too about like it could kind of do damage to your rewinder or your VCR or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Okay,
Don't
but
have enough knowledge.
you had the prequel on VHS or the prequel trilogy, the
No,
new
sorry, the
age trilogy?
originals, the
Gotcha.
originals 4, 5, 6. And like, that was always cool looking at those and rewatching those on TV. But then, it was like a whole nother thing to I remember going to episode 1 on like premiere night with my dad and like people were dressed up and it was like, like that wasn't like something like you really saw, at least like so commonly, at least when I was like only, I don't know, 10 years old or around there. So definitely like getting your own experience with it, that probably, the nostalgia for that definitely boosts those up in my eyes. But getting back to the point, like I think the Clone Wars and that definitely added to the like looking back on those prequels now, it kind of fills in some of those gaps and makes me like appreciate some characters more or kind of understand things a little bit more, like why things were happening a certain way. So that's can be interesting. I'm not saying that there's no value, but I think sometimes, and this isn't just limited to Star Wars, this is limited. My other biggest issue, like I'm a completionist. I think people who know me know that about me. Like I don't give up on shows or things typically. The one exception to that is The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is like
Dude,
the one show I quit.
yeah.
I quit that show. And that says a lot to me, not about me, but about that show because it's just like it's going nowhere, man. You're just spinning your wheels. Like there's no vision here. It's just like we're just going to keep making episodes with no end in sight. And it's like, okay, like then I'm out because I can't do this. What is the greater plan here? And then they had like Fear the Walking Dead too. It's like this is, and then they had the Talking Dead. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much zombies. It's too much. It was
I
just way too
agree.
much.
It was great. Like the last parts where I remember being like riveted, were when the governor was involved and The
Yeah,
Walking Dead. Like that was like peak epic, like
yeah, it was good for a
appointment
time to be
television.
clear. I'm not saying it
You're
was all trash, but yeah,
right. So like a similar effect to me, like there is like oversaturation to a degree. Like I guess what you're saying, like with Walking Dead. The show Arrow was super cool. You ever get into Arrow?
with Oliver Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I had
Okay.
to quit that for similar reasons. I think it was just
Well,
getting
that's
too
what I'm
long
saying.
or
So like
something.
Arrow got really cool. All right, super into it. And then like all of a sudden, like you blink and like now all the friends are like crime fighters. So, it's
Mm.
like, okay, like I'm willing to suspend reality a little bit here. And then the Flash comes along. Okay, cool. Like this is awesome. Like you're connecting these two things and whatever. And so like this, I feel I don't want to say comfortable spoiling, but it's been long enough. So like a big premise of the Flash is like visiting other like alternate universes or whatever, right? And the first time that this ever happens, it's like it requires the Flash to like, you know, overexert his like body and like almost like die as a result of the like physical exertion. And then like in future seasons, they're doing it like, like it's like going up to get a cup of coffee. It's like, wait a minute, like last time you did this, it was like the most strenuous thing you ever did. And now you can just like flip a switch and do it. But beyond that, what got exhausting about that was you had to watch those shows. You had to watch like that week's episode of Arrow and then that week's episode of The Flash and then the next week's episode of Arrow and then the next week's episode of The Flash.
Mm.
So you had to be like constantly like alternating. That was very difficult for me.
It
So
becomes
that's why,
homework.
right. And that's like, so to your point about Star Wars, it's flirting with that. It's getting a
Mm.
little close, like let's dial it back in. I like some dots getting connected. I loved Rogue One as an example. Like Rogue One was super cool. Marry the two trilogies together. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
Andor, did you ever finish Andor?
I did. Yeah,
Super great. You know what I mean? Like in that,
I
but
liked
like
it.
some of this stuff is a little bit too much for me. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, Mandalorian still riding strong. We'll see how it
Yes.
goes. But yeah.
It's just I think Book of Boba was a flop, and it's just like didn't
Oh
need that.
yeah.
And it was the best parts when it was actually just became the Mandalorian at one point during the season. And then like, but I guess like my point with the Bad Batch too, which I thought, okay, have a season of that, but do we need like two? We need multiple. Do we really need
Right.
like multiple seasons of this? That's my thing, I guess. Like Andor, great. Well, I mean, it's only one season so far. I don't know if they'll do more in the future. But my point is, like, we don't
They
always
are
need
doing more.
okay, and maybe that'll work out, but we don't always need multiple seasons. I think it's okay to do like a one season series show, and maybe that's harder for logistical reasons and paying people. I don't know. That's beyond me. But I just think there need to be. I hope there are people kind of like checking this, a little bit, like to your point. Like let's make sure we're not just like yes to everything. Let's just do everything. No, that's not. I don't think that's how you make good stuff. Is just being like we'll just keep putting out episodes and filling in these gaps and some of the just even within some of the Star Wars things, like in Solo, where like they reveal how Han Solo got his name. That is like one of the worst moments in cinematic history to me, because it's just like it was just so like fourth wall breaking to the point of not like trying to be, where it might have almost well have just in my eyes like looked into the camera at that point and like winked at the audience, because it was like that, like just like okay, like I get it.
Well, to your point, we don't need a whole movie to tell us why his name is Han Solo. Like, you know what I mean? Like we can all understand that's who his name is. So like it does
leave some stuff to the audience, like leave the mystery there. And obviously for people who really want to get into the lore and stuff, there's like books and other materials, but you don't have to like hold our hand the entire way all the time.
Did you watch the Obi-Wan show?
I did, and also again was not the.
So
well, I can't even remember it, honestly. I remember the first episode or two were like really slow, and then it got better, but I just didn't need it. I don't need this.
I'm going to zoom through it like a take really quickly. And so if you haven't seen Obi-Wan and you want to, this is your warning. I'm going to start talking about it in 20 seconds.
4,
so that's
3,
fine.
2, 1.
So the final episode, Obi-Wan and Anakin have this like duel, so to speak, right? Like whatever. And at this point in time, Obi-Wan has learned, and the timing of this takes place, I guess, in between trilogies, right? And so Obi-Wan has learned that Anakin is like Vader, and he's like destroying the galaxy, blah blah blah. And then he fights him, and he wins the fight, and then he just like leaves him be, right? Like so, like how is this? How does that make sense? Like you know what I'm saying? Like if you're Obi-Wan and you understand like this is the dude who's like destroying the entire galaxy, like how do you let him live? That was the question I had. And I remember like reading like comments and things like that. Like, and so that's the problem when you're doing these shows where you're painted into a corner with what the ending, because obviously like Anakin has to survive this for the sake of the like other trilogy. So like, why do this? Like, why even have them fight? You know what I'm saying? Like, Obi-Wan in that scenario would not let Anakin live because he would be looking out for the state of the galaxy. So like, that was like again, like you have to answer common sense in these things. So like, do they not have like Brandon and I will be your focus group, Star Wars. Let us watch the stuff and we'll just tell you the stuff about it that sucks.
Prequels, I think, are some of that, and some of like you can only do so much because we know how it ends at some level. It's almost like you go to some levels of wrestling, especially if you go to like a WWE or whatever promotion, AEW, like house show, like the ones that aren't televised, but the wrestlers are wrestling. And I went to those, like that was like the first wrestling thing I ever went to when I was little. Like, like, oh, this is a world heavyweight championship. Yeah, but it's obviously the title's not going to change because it's not even being televised. I mean, if that match is on Raw or SmackDown, let's say, like which are televised, still probably not changing, but in theory, like there's some kind of chance it could happen. But if you're going to it and it's not even televised, then obviously it's not changing hands. So like not even having that remote possibility of like not knowing what happens definitely is a factor, and I think it becomes a little bit like exploity when it comes to these companies like trying to like extend the life of their shows. Oh, we'll just do prequel stuff. We'll just go back before everything started. And I think it kind of becomes a little cheapened in some ways. Not to say that there's never been a good prequel. I just talked about how I like the Star Wars prequels.
Prequels become cheap, like are cheap in the experience, and so do like where the Marvels. I'm not like deep in all this lore, but like so like okay, like anyone can be alive again, right? Like all we have to do is like go to a different universe, and like any character can like be in that universe. You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of
very
does,
clear
like,
what they're doing to me,
right? Like there's no like consequence for whatever. So last thing on this subject, and then I have a football question and we can kind of end here. Just very quickly on White Lotus. I think that it's written and produced and directed by Mike White from Survivor. Yep. So yeah, it's interesting. I will say, are you a Succession fan?
I've not seen it.
It's super cool to have a show because the second episode just aired of the final season that is like this is so much more rare than it used to be. Like I remember like when Game of Thrones was on, like it was like boom, Sunday night, like everybody's watching Game of Thrones. I can't wait to talk about Game of
Appointment
Thrones.
television is what you're looking for.
Right. That's what I said about what did you talk about that it was The Walking Dead was like that at first.
Yep.
And so like I can't think of the last show to have this effect before Succession.
Yeah, maybe it was Game of Thrones. Is that HBO?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have HBO. I Disney Plus and Peacock and Netflix.
Oh, you know what I was going to tell you actually on the subject of Peacock? You liked have you watched the new Mole? Because I know you were going to watch the new Mole.
I've not yet, but I love the original Mole.
Right.
Yeah.
Check out Traitors on Peacock.
Traitors.
It is the Mole to a different degree. And it has a lot of former Survivor, Big Brother players too. Like, I think you will really enjoy it.
Was Sari on this? Or?
She was.
Okay, yes. I've heard good things
Sari,
about this.
And I'm trying to remember who the other Survivor contestants were.
I am interested. Speaking of Peacock, I'm in wrestling. I meant to bring up that I watched WrestleMania over this weekend. I'm not
this is our last non-football thing. This is another epic thing, though. Like, I'm not a wrestling fan, but I do appreciate the like epicness associated with events like this.
Well, yeah, it's the Super Bowl of wrestling. Right. It's like a huge event, and I feel like even if you don't really watch wrestling at all, but have at some point in your life, then you'll probably like know enough to maybe not know about every single match, but if you watch like a good portion of the card, you'll be like, oh, I know who that person is, or kind of have seen them on social media or something. Like you'll have a general understanding, and some of the matches are just really good, entertaining. So I try to watch like the Royal Rumble each year, or at least like look back through the highlights, because again, that's something where like you could have watched wrestling when you're a kid, and this guy who hadn't even been involved with the company until then like shows up, because anyone can show up in theory. It's kind of fun, it's random, but also WrestleMania, which is kind of the culmination of the Royal Rumble in one way, because the winner of that match then goes to compete at WrestleMania, and so I was watching that. And it's kind of crazy how that's evolved. Again, we're talking about content. It's 2 nights now. It's been 2 nights for a while now, but it's 2 nights, and they're like 4 or 5 hours each. It's kind of crazy. The first night to me was better than the second night. But it's going to be in Philly next year, so I'm thinking about going. I might want to go to that, because that's not even something. Yeah,
is that what it is? Okay.
It's not even something I had like ever even thought about doing. Like I don't really care that like I could. And I was like, I could take or leave going to WrestleMania, but like it was coming here, and I'm like, maybe I should go. Maybe I should go to that.
You should.
And yeah, I think I'm gonna go. And I guess it's kind of tough, because not tough, but like it's just a matter of figuring out which night to go to, because I think one night might be better than the other. Figure out which night to go to.
Well, you just said night one's better. So.
But yeah, but also it happens at a good time of year for me, I guess, because again, we're in this dead zone kind of time where.
Yeah, welcome to the non-NFC East episode of the NFC East Mixtape. I mean, that's
Who's your favorite wrestler?
Wow.
Did you ever have a favorite wrestler? Did you ever watch it?
I'm not. That's like a big sort of pop culture gap for me. Like I could tell you like
a wrestler.
I mean, I could tell you like
John Cena,
John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan. Maybe. Like I mean, like I'm talking like I'm embarrassingly shallow in this world. So I mean, The Rock, I don't know. I don't know. Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's my pick. Yeah. I don't know. Based on absolutely nothing. Wow. Who's your favorite golfer?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can name some. I just don't I don't think I really.
Who can you name? I'm curious.
Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Jordan Spieth, Rory, right? Rory, what's his name? Rory
McIlroy.
I was going to say McIlroy.
So go ahead, and then I'll tell you a Rory thing.
John Daly, right?
Football. That's right. John Daly, Cowboys fan.
Oh, tough. Didn't know that. That's probably about it, I guess.
So there was a tennis version of Drive to Survive, and there was a golf one called Full Swing. And I flew through the golf one. My wife and I I think within like 1 weekend, we got through it all. In the final episode, which took place at the Tour Championship, which is in September, there was a scene where Rory was kind of, I'm sure you're aware of the like, I don't want to say political, but the war between golf leagues right now and everything. So this was like a big theme of the season of the show as well, obviously, and last year's golf season and even the current state of golf, whatever. But so Rory was kind of like poking fun in a jovial way at a few different people, and was kind of like getting stretched out before this tournament. And he was like making fun of somebody. The actual context is lost on me in this moment, but he brought up, he said, like, he was obviously meaning to hurt. He was like, when was the last time the Cowboys won the Super Bowl? And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, I was just trying to watch a golf documentary and enjoy it. And Roy's out here taking shots. So maybe Roy's your favorite for that.
I don't know. I don't know if I really have one.
He's from Ireland. Would you like to visit Ireland?
Yeah, I would. I've been wanting to go there. Yes, at some point. Like, not, it's not like the top of my priority, but it's definitely somewhere I would like to go one day.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Maybe we do a live NFC East mixtape in Ireland. Who knows?
Probably not.
Yes, get on it. But okay, my final thing, it's a football question. And obviously next week we'll be getting a little bit closer to the draft and kind of maybe zeroing on certain things, owning in on things. Because I have an answer. Maybe you don't. What is something you have maybe not changed your mind about with regards to what you do or do not want for the Eagles, but maybe something you're starting to be like, I disagree with even like the February version of myself on this? Because that I have something that I'm like kind of coming around on that I was impossible a few months ago.
Why don't you tell me what that is?
I am still not a fan in general of the Cowboys, say, drafting Bijan Robinson, but like I've allowed the door for that to be open in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like before it was like I had it shut with like the deadbolt on. You know what I'm saying? Like the door is like cracked open. But more specifically, the idea of taking a tight end in the first round. And a lot of that is a result of what they've done to this point in the offseason, and specifically trading for Brandon Cooks. And a lot of that too is like, projecting what is going to be available to them. And so like marrying the idea of the best possible things, et cetera, et cetera. So if they walk away with Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer, and you add that to an offense that has CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Michael Gallup and Tony Pollard, like I can get down with that a lot more than I thought I would be able to when the draft process kind of first began.
Okay. Yeah. Strong tight end class. On the Bijan Robinson point, and he's obviously a topic of conversation with the Eagles having the 10th overall pick, and should the Eagles take him there? I mean, again, kind of buzz coming out of the combine is it's not something to count on, and shouldn't be shocking. The way I've talked about it is that, like, I think the Eagles looking at that pick, like, they want the ceiling to be, hey, this player can be here for the next 10 years. They want it to be like Fletcher Cox or Brandon Grant or Jason.
Well, who doesn't? Like, who's got a top 10 pick that's like, we're cool if this guy doesn't sign a second contract with us? Like, who thinks that?
Well, I mean, some teams that take running backs, because that's just not likely. That's just not a realistic ceiling. I mean, look at Zeke. Like, it's just not. That's not really like where's the path to that? There's no like real template, especially in today's NFL, for that happening. So that's my point. Like, I don't think you're going to see. It's not just about, well, because I think people argue like, hey, the long term doesn't necessarily matter as much. The team is so good now, and they have this window, and look, I get it. Like, it would be awesome. And to your point about the Cowboys, like, there's definitely short-term fun to think about there. It's like, ordering like 5 pizzas and is this the healthiest meal? Is this going to sustain me? Is this going to be good? No, but like, is a lot of fun. Yeah. So I get that, more than one thing can be true, as I like to say. By the way, I think my favorite golfer, because I can't really pick one, I'm looking at the list of like the best golfers ever. I think I'm going to have to go Arnold Palmer. And I know nothing about it. Really.
Have you had an Arnold Palmer before?
That's the only reason I'm doing it, because like a mix of lemonade and iced tea. I think that's a good mix. So just for that reason alone, I'm going to say Arnold Palmer.
So you're aware he's referred to as the king of golf. So you're like,
I know he's like really
my favorite football player is Tom Brady. So that's
I don't know anything about. What else am I gonna? I'm looking through the list.
My favorite basketball player is Michael Jordan, for no reason.
Honestly, I don't even care if he was good or not. I just like the idea of the drink, the Arnold Palmer. So that's why he's my favorite. I don't know if he's like bad politics or anything. I know nothing about him in detail other than that. As a disclaimer, what was the other question? What were we talking about?
What is the thing you've changed your mind on, or started to, change your mind a bit or whatever?
I guess I was thinking, been thinking a lot, like, there's just this inevitable step back, and I still, like, I don't disagree with that at all, but they do have a lot of things going for them still, and like they're going to be, I think, like a playoff team at the very least. So, and I believe in Jalen Hurts a lot, which is obviously a big turn from where I was at one point in time. And
Certainly at this point last year.
I don't think it should, mean, oh, the Eagles are definitely getting back to the Super Bowl. But I also don't want to swing too far in the direction of they have no chance. I think that's not fair to the players who still are here and the offense still being largely intact. I think, again, I tend to be of the mindset that you go to a championship game and you have that feeling in your head that like, oh, we're just going to get back. We're going to pick. You've always talked about that. Like you're just going to pick up from where you left off. And I think a lot of teams go wrong in thinking that. So I'm worried of that. But I think, and I've said this even when I was pretty in despair about the Eagles season finishing or ending like it did, that get me to late August in training camp, and assuming training camp doesn't end up being like a disaster with people getting hurt and everything, and Hurts not looking good, then I'm going to talk myself into the team being really good again. Not as good as last year, but still pretty good, and one of the best teams in the NFL. And I even saw a thing today, like of teams with the I guess it's like like the most like analytical, I guess, bet on prop bets and everything. They're not prop bets, like future odds and everything. And the Eagles were like, towards the top of that list. Actually, the 49ers at the top, and it was the Cardinals at the bottom. I think the Eagles were like third or fourth. Like they're still one of the very best teams in the NFL. So they've got that going for them.
So what is it that you've changed your mind on? That like the regression won't be as hard, I guess?
Again, I'm not saying there won't be a drop off. I'm just saying, like, even with the drop off, they were so good last year that even with a drop off, like, still a pretty good
No,
football
but
team.
I'm just asking, what is the thing you've changed your mind? Like, I'm not understanding. I understand what your point is, but I don't understand where your mind
I
has
think
changed.
just the exhaustion of like having to climb back the mountain again was just not. I wasn't even like ready to think like that they're going to be anything. Not that I'm saying they're doomed, but just because it was just hard to think about anything relating to next season.
So
Whereas now was
if I
more
have
of a.
to like tie your point into a bow or it's like that you're more optimistic now, I guess, or you're less pessimistic.
I think it's just about reaching a point where I'm willing to get hurt again.
Nice. Okay, let's get out of here. And as we do, Brandon is going to tell everyone.
My social security number is 867.
You're going to
I don't know.
tell everyone. Since you said you were a completionist, the show that you finished begrudgingly, that was dropping off in quality, but you finished because you're a completionist.
Because I had to do it.
Right. And then we leave.
I think Weeds maybe comes to mind.
That's the answer.
I mean, Dexter had a terrible ending, but I still liked it until.
I think that another good answer would be like How I Met Your Mother.
I was just watching the finale of that. That's funny you bring that up recently, because it's been so long, and I just wanted to remind myself.
It's been 10 years since the finale.
Very sudden turn at the end.
Actually, I would disagree. It was like a year-long turn. Like it was.
No,
like,
I mean, like a certain plot point. It was a very big turn.
All right, 3 words. Go.
1, 2, 3.